Hello, and welcome to Nomadic Diaries, the re-entry series. I'm Doreen Cumberford, the host.
And I'm Linda Mueller, the co-host.
Hello, and welcome to Nomadic Diaries. Today, we have my friend and colleague and fantastic author of the book, Incredible Lives and the Courage to Live Them, Thoughts of a Third Culture Kid Therapist. We have the amazing Dr. Rachel Cason with us today to talk a bit about TCKs and repatriation. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. That is just the loveliest welcome. I feel very glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. And you are just one of the heart-centered and global-hearted people who are in this situation of being close and keeping an eye on the third culture kid population. And so we really acknowledge your wisdom and your experience that you bring to the conversation.
Oh, thank you. And I'm constantly learning. That's the wonderful thing about our community is there's such a generosity of
Yes.
emergent ideas and experiences, and then watching my clients grow in their own journeys as well. I learn a lot more about my own. It's very, very organic.
Yes, yes. So can we talk about what do you think are the most common struggles or challenges that the population that you see, the third culture kids, struggle with when repatriating?
So, I think probably to kick off, it occurs to me when we're talking about repatriation, there's almost a sort of how do we define this for TCKs? Because I think they can do it twice. They
Oh,
can do
yes.
it as kids when their family officially repatriates. But
Yeah.
then because so many third culture kids re-enter the world of mobility as adults, there's this sort of second wave repatriation.
Yes, there is.
As adults as well. So just being mindful that we could be covering both sets of experiences and of course all the grey in between. But yeah, in terms of common struggles, so with that second set, the adults that then choose actively themselves to reach for settledness later on in life, feelings of failure show up a lot. There can be a real bonding to the identity of mobility and the identity of global, to such an extent that even where there are really considered choices around stopping, even if for a period of time, and repatriating, that there can be a huge sense of failure and shrinking in that. But somehow they're letting down an identity of TCK-ness.
I can see that. Now tell me, what does that look like?
It can look like just a lot of conflicting goals and a lot of conflicting feelings. So, one thing that came when you sort of suggested this question, one thing that flashed in front of my eyes, I don't know if you've seen the Prince Caspian film. Oh, it must be in the last decade or so. It's not that new now, but they sort of, after the BBC televised version of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where everybody's wearing animal costumes, they sort of did an updated version of it. And after the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, you have Caspian, where of course you see these children who've been magicked into Narnia once already. They go back to England, and then they get magicked back into Narnia. And I remember watching the Prince Caspian film, and they'd taken some literary license, shall we say, with the interpretation of the beginning and the state of mind of the children once back in England. And there's a scene where one of the young boys is in a fight, basically, and he's getting scrappy and getting, he can't tolerate being pushed around in England anymore. And there's this definite sense of, don't you know who I am? I'm a king in Narnia, dang it, kind of sense.
Yes,
but he's
yes.
nothing. He's ordinary.
Yeah.
And pain in his eyes that they managed to communicate. And I remember just hitting that scene, going, oh,
yes,
I know that feeling. And then Googling the director, turns out he's a TCK. That's why he played it that way.
Interesting.
He knew that feeling of don't you know I'm a person? I have competencies, I have skills, I have experiences. I'm special. I have unique life
Yes.
shape. And of course I've grown up being told how different I am. And now
Yes.
I'm not.
I
And I
have
think
superpowers.
yes, exactly. And then we get to our home country in inverted commas, and we're not special anymore.
No.
Or if we are special, that we might find that's weaponized against us, or it suddenly starts to
Yes.
become alienating in new ways. And I think that's a particular pain for the child repatriating, but
Yes.
also the adult repatriating. And it's very painful, very, very painful to identity loss like that. Yeah.
And so when people are left experiencing that bereftness, that feeling, that emptiness, that loss of identity and sense of belonging, which I can relate to all of this, both of us can probably. um, how do you help people articulate it in a fashion that is both holistic and healing and sort of healing forward?
Yeah. So this is where I find that story work is just so, this is why I work with life story with TCKs, because it's a way of understanding our feelings in context. And so we go back to that child's experience of a lack of choice around repatriation. So the loss is not chosen, there is no power there in
Yeah.
general.
Yes.
And in terms of healing, it's sort of trying to offer that child chapter part there,
Yes.
all of the understanding and all the space to rage and remember who they are,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
fullness of their sense of self. And that can be very complicated because there might actually not be very much fullness of sense of self
Yes.
outside the mobility
Yes.
identity.
Yes.
So then it's a kind of real loving self to kind of nurture and notice all the things that were lost that could
Mm.
have developed and continue to develop self,
Mm.
and trying to integrate those parts and welcome them into the present, and then find a sense of choice in the now. Why
Mm.
are we settling? Why are we staying? If that is something we've chosen for a relationship or a career, or simply because our passport or citizenship is limiting us now in new ways, how can we engage with that in a sort of choice-filled way
Mm.
so that we stay or become hero, heroine of the story?
So
Um,
it's sort of digging for empowerment or places where you can sort of self-empower yourself. Is that what you mean?
I think so, absolutely, because
Mm.
the more we carry a sense of I've been dragged here under duress,
Yes.
we have an inbuilt resistance to put down roots. If we're convinced that the soil will poison us, we are not going to root in it.
Correct.
So we need a new relationship with the territory around us,
Yes.
and a sense of trust that we can flourish in it, and
Yes.
that we're not idiots for trying to as well. Is key.
And so, do you find does this occur in a regular stages or is it a random? Obviously, this is a unique and irrepeatable, miraculous journey for everyone because everyone's different. I just
Yeah.
want to acknowledge that up front. So, but do you see patterns emerging?
I'd love to say yes, because I love patterns. I think it's more a cluster of experiences that is
Hmm.
very, very determined by family, by personality, by age that we're doing this, and sets of circumstances. Even as adults, we might have more or less sense of power and choice around the settling thing.
Yes.
Um, so I think grief is just
Hmm.
inevitable. We're going to experience grief, but the way that our family narrates or makes space for our feelings is going to have a huge impact.
Yes.
Um, so, are we allowed to hate our parents' country? basically? Is there space for that, or are we expected to relate to it in some way?
Yes.
And if we are allowed to hate it, is that being done? Is that space being offered in a way that still allows space for us to come to love it? Because if our parents are resenting repatriation, then we're going to really dig in that association of this place is poison. This place hurts my family. Why would I want to learn to love it? Why would I want to connect to it? Why would I want to make bonds with it? So it's a really delicate balance thing, and it's going to be worked out family by family, but how we can feel our feelings, how we can, as adults, model for children that it's okay to be sad, and it's totally natural to be finding things difficult and to be even angry about certain experiences, but without that limiting the range of children's expression as well. Are they allowed to experience this differently?
So that speaks to the idea of family systems and how much families understand the plight of a TCK. I mean, there are some assumptions there about families being sensitive, conscious, aware.
Sensitive, conscious, aware, all of those wonderful words. And of course, as well, to understand that the TCK's experience of repatriation is that of entering a foreign country.
Yes.
This is not coming home in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Even if you've done regular summer visits, even if you've got maybe you've got quite close extended family ties or community ties, this is still a new place. And it's such a gift to offer that as a construct to the child, that you would, let's be a tourist, let's create memories, let's not assume there's automatic bonds here. We're going to have to really nurture this in an active way, in the same way that we'd encourage them to nurture or get curious about any other country we'd take them to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, as someone who has done this very imperfectly every time I did it, are there unique mental health challenges? I believe that I had some mental health challenges in the last one for a short period of time, and did not get appropriate support or therapy. And so I am interested if you see a pattern of, the mental health challenges. Is it anger that is the primary thing that shows up, or is it just the sense of displacement? Is there any kind of pattern in the mental health challenges that we choose to pack up and, quite frankly, sometimes carry with us forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And anything unresolved keeps showing up again and again, doesn't it?
Absolutely, because wherever you go, there you are.
Absolutely. And griefs compound with future griefs as well, of course. And I think you put your finger on something really important, is that when we're talking about supporting TCKs, we need to do so in recognition that we have stressed out families. That the whole family is under stress here, and so resources are limited very often. And this is a hard thing to recognize, but an absolute gift to be able to verbalize within our family systems, to kind of go, hey kid, I'd love to have more of a listening ear for this particular grief you're offering so generously at this moment, but I'm spent, I've got nothing. And this isn't you. This isn't a you thing. You're not asking too much of your parent here. This is just a I'm depleted thing. And to have a shared language around limitation.
Bandwidth.
Absolutely. Of limited bandwidth, and to get curious with each other about what can replenish energy as individuals as well. But in terms of the particularities of engaging with this as a TCK, I think anger is a big one, but so can be its kind of, I don't know whether it's fair to call it opposite, but a kind of a passive fatalism can kick in as well. So anger is trying to fix it. Passive fatalism, say, if I wait long enough, it'll go away. which of course is what has worked in the past. A
Mm.
lot of us as TCKs might not have conflict resolution skills, and we might not have a sense of our own power, frankly,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
we haven't needed it. We can just
Yes.
wait it out and it will
Yes.
change for us. So
Yes.
we can end up looking like young TCKs who are adapting terribly well, and we are, but in a kind of survive and brace sort of
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
not necessarily in actively engaging. And your very angry TCK might be much healthier mentally, but crying a lot more.
Yes.
So it's sort of,
Yeah.
it's really trying to attune to what's going on and how individually kids are expressing themselves. But I think the biggest one that I see in adults, when adults are trying to navigate settling and repatriation later on, and I'm talking about a kind of emotionally delayed repatriation here, as well as maybe a third type where they have been in their home country for maybe a decade,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
only just dawning on them that they live here,
Yes.
and this is it.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, what now?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the mechanics of repatriation are in place, but emotionally there's still a process at play. And I think that the big challenge there is where, or to what degree, we have almost intentionally dissociated ourselves from the identity of our passport peers, because the worst thing you can be is one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And that sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but when we've grown up so different, to become a normal is deeply frightening. And that's going to be one of our biggest blocks in terms of, because if settledness behaviors make us look like an average Joe, and the worst thing we can be is an average Joe, we're not going to do settledness behaviors.
No. No. Boy, well, that's very powerful.
Does that resonate? Does that?
Oh yes, it feels for me it feels very, very right on. I would just say that these are mini pieces for families and TCKs, teenagers. I mean, we're all in this together. To sort of reflect on during this month of repatriation. So, do you have advice for just families in general? Do you have advice for just to say, try one thing? If there's one thing that families could do, what would it be?
There's one thing that families could do, what would it be? I think it's curiosity. New TCKs are curious because we've or intrinsically empowered with curiosity because we've exposed them to so many curious things. And I think that can be an element of that. But the one place this can fall down is about their passport country.
Yeah, yeah.
And that might be an element of parents in family roles. They're less curious about their passport country because they know it.
Yes, it's normal.
It's
boring.
normal. But if we can get like domestic anthropologists as a kind of vibe for our family and kind of really stay curious about why people are doing the things they are doing, what is important about 4th of July celebrations, why do children all wear school uniform here, what is going on, and how could this be working for the local population, then we can stay connected, not just with them, we can find little bridges through to them, but also with self. We can be interested and we can encounter our own thought processes and opinions about the things rather than just us them debacle setup. So I think curiosity, and then curiosity within that family unit as well.
Yes.
Why is this brother reacting differently from this sister?
Yes. Yes.
And let's just be curious about that rather than problematizing it.
Yes. I was speaking to someone the other day whose 23-year-old approximate son had made his first Caucasian friends in a lifetime. in a
Yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really landing on those moments and going, wow, that is so interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
allowing each other to tell our stories, thus Nomadic Diaries, a place
Yeah.
where people can come tell their repatriation story, tell their all types of stories about the global mobility and the joys and the pains.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Is there something you would like to say in closing, Rachel, to families who are listening now? Particularly, we want to hear how they can find you, what sort of services you offer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my website is explorelifestory.com, and my email should be on that as well. In terms of my services, I work with adults primarily. So I don't at this moment in time work with children. I work with the child parts of the grown-ups, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes.
Um, and so I offer person-centered counselling for any UK citizens residing in the UK as sort of generalised talking services. And then life story therapy is that sort of particular bespoke structure for TCKs and expats around the world. And then I'm just finishing up some coaching training as well. So that's for more direct goal orientated
Yes.
work. That's an option as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Your
And
question.
and this is, since we're on YouTube, I'm holding it. We'll be on YouTube, and this may be a video on YouTube one day. I'm holding up this Incredible Lives and the Courage to Live Them by Thoughts of a Third Culture Kid Therapist.
Yeah.
And thank you for the
you.
depth of knowledge and the patience and the stamina that you demonstrate in this world, because I think that you model many of the characteristics that perhaps we TCKs should be growing.
Well, it's a journey, right? Regarding the book, I'm just finishing up recording the audiobook version, so hopefully in the next month or so that'll be available too. I work with a number of neurodivergent TCKs, and sometimes audio is just better to absorb than text. So
Yes.
I'm excited about being able to offer that. There was one thought actually, just to add on, because you mentioned about different, we're talking about different ages and stages of repatriation, and something to maybe look up if parents are interested is Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. A quick Google will come up with a nice little image chart of many options. But what he does particularly is he outlines how at different ages and stages of development, there are kind of these particular questions that we're asking as kids. And so, and depending on how those questions are answered, we'll get a kind of resource, or he calls them virtues, that we can then take into the next stage. And I've noticed that can be really helpful in understanding where we feel sometimes a bit glitchy in our skill sets or our emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Notice what's happened at what age.
Yes. Yes.
And that can just be a useful tool. I've got a bit of a blog series that I did a while ago now on my website, where if you put Erikson into the search bar, it'll kind of apply some of his theory to TCKs.
Wonderful. So we will share this also in the show notes. Thank you so much today for this, Rachel. Thank you for your contribution to the body of work that we call repatriation. And listeners, you have all access to the show notes. And thank you so much.
Thank you.